Maid broke Billionaire's priceless vase. What he made her do next will shock you. Before we start the story, leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from, and at the end, don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Zoe Parker had been working as a professional housekeeper for Elite Domestic Services for 3 years, and she'd learned 2 important rules. Always be invisible, and never ever touch anything that looks expensive. Unfortunately, on a rainy Tuesday morning in Sebastian Morrison's penthouse, she was about to violate both rules in spectacular fashion. Sebastian Morrison was the 30-year-old CEO of Morrison Luxury, a high-end fashion and lifestyle brand that catered to celebrities and billionaires. His Manhattan penthouse reflected his company's aesthetic, all clean lines, designer furniture, and art pieces that probably cost more than most people's houses. Zoe had been cleaning Sebastian's apartment for 6 months, but she'd only met him twice. He was usually at his corporate headquarters downtown or traveling for business. When their paths did cross, he was polite but distant, the kind of wealthy client who saw household staff as part of the furniture. Today, Zoe was alone in the apartment, working through her usual routine. She'd started in the kitchen, moved to the living areas, and was now tackling Sebastian's home office. The room was immaculate as always, with a massive desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and several display cases containing what looked like expensive collectibles. As she dusted the desk, Zoe noticed a small crystal vase sitting near the edge. A delicate piece with intricate cut patterns that caught the morning light beautifully. She'd dusted around it dozens of times before, always being extra careful because it looked fragile and obviously valuable. But today, as she reached across the desk to clean the computer monitor, her elbow caught the vase. Time seemed to slow as Zoe watched the crystal piece tumble toward the hardwood floor. She lunged forward, trying to catch it, but only managed to knock over a stack of papers. The vase hit the floor with a sound that seemed to echo through the entire apartment. A sharp, final crack that told Zoe everything she needed to know. "No, no, no," she whispered, dropping to her knees beside the shattered remains. The beautiful crystal vase was now a scattered collection of sharp fragments, completely beyond repair. Zoe's hands shook as she carefully gathered the pieces, her mind racing. This was bad. Really bad. The kind of bad that ended with her being fired and possibly sued for damages. She'd heard stories from other housekeepers about clients who demanded compensation for broken items, clients who'd had maids pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for accidents. And this vase, judging by its weight and the quality of the crystal, was probably worth more money than Zoe made in several months. As she knelt on the floor surrounded by crystal fragments, Zoe heard the worst possible sound. The front door opening. "Zoe!" Sebastian's voice called from the entryway. "Are you here?" Zoe's stomach dropped. Sebastian Morrison was home early, and she was kneeling in his office surrounded by the remains of what was probably a priceless antique. "I'm in the office, Mr. Morrison," she called back, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. She heard his footsteps approaching, expensive leather shoes on hardwood floors. Zoe stood up, still holding several pieces of the broken vase, and prepared to face whatever consequences were coming. Sebastian appeared in the doorway, tall and impeccably dressed, even though it wasn't yet noon. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his charcoal suit was clearly custom-made, and his expression was neutral until he saw Zoe standing amid the wreckage. "What happened?" he asked, his voice calm, but his gray eyes taking in every detail of the scene. "Mr. Morrison, I'm so sorry," Zoe began, her words tumbling out in a rush. "I was dusting your desk, and I accidentally knocked over the vase. I know it was valuable, and I know I should have been more careful. I'll pay for it, whatever it cost. You can take it out of my salary, or I can set up a payment plan, or—" "Zoe," Sebastian interrupted gently, "take a breath." Zoe stopped talking and looked at him, surprised by his calm tone. She'd expected anger, accusations, maybe even threats of legal action. Instead, Sebastian looked almost amused. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "What? Are you hurt? Did you cut yourself on the crystal?" Zoe looked down at her hands, realizing she hadn't even considered that possibility. "No, I don't think so." "Good." Sebastian stepped into the room, carefully avoiding the scattered fragments. "Let me help you clean this up." Zoe stared at him in shock. "You want to help me clean up the mess I made?" "It was an accident, Zoe. Accidents happen." Sebastian disappeared for a moment and returned with a small handheld vacuum and a dustpan. As he knelt beside her to collect the smaller pieces, Zoe found herself studying his profile. She'd always thought of Sebastian Morrison as intimidating, too wealthy, too successful, too perfect. But here he was, kneeling on his expensive hardwood floor, helping his housekeeper clean up broken glass. "Mr. Morrison," Zoe said quietly, "I really am sorry, and I meant what I said about paying for it." Sebastian looked up at her, and for the first time since she'd started working for him, Zoe felt like he was really seeing her. "Zoe, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you know what that vase was?" Zoe's heart sank. Here it comes, she thought. The part where he tells her it was a priceless family heirloom, or a museum-quality antique worth $50,000. "No, sir. But it looked very expensive." Sebastian smiled. Actually, smiled. For the first time in Zoe's memory. "It was a wedding gift from my ex-fiancée. I've been meaning to get rid of it for months, but I never got around to it. You just saved me the trouble." Zoe blinked in surprise. You're not upset?" "Relieved, actually. That vase represented some pretty unpleasant memories." As they finished cleaning up the crystal fragments, Zoe felt like she was seeing a completely different side of Sebastian Morrison. He wasn't the cold, distant CEO she'd imagined. He was actually human. "However," Sebastian said as they disposed of the last pieces, "since you brought up payment plans—" Zoe's stomach clenched. Here it comes, she thought. "I do have a proposition for you." Sebastian straightened his tie and looked at Zoe with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I host a lot of parties, corporate events, charity galas. Usually I hire additional staff through an agency, but the service is inconsistent." Zoe nodded, not sure where this was going. "What if, instead of payment for the vase, you worked some of these events? Extra shifts above and beyond your regular cleaning schedule. The pay would be significantly better than your usual rate." Zoe considered this offer carefully. It sounded too good to be true. Instead of being in debt to Sebastian Morrison, she'd actually be earning extra money. "What kind of events?" she asked. "Cocktail parties, business dinners, the occasional charity fundraiser. You'd help with service, make sure guests have what they need, general hospitality support." "And this would cover the cost of the vase?" Sebastian's smile was enigmatic. "Let's say after 10 events, we'll call it even." Zoe did quick math in her head. If the events paid well and only happened occasionally, this could actually work out in her favor. She could use the extra money to pay down her student loans faster. "Mr. Morrison, that seems more than fair. When is the first event?" "This Saturday. Cocktail party for some investors and business partners. Nothing too formal, maybe 40 people." "What would you need me to do exactly?" "Circulate with drinks, make sure the food stations are stocked, general hostess duties. Think of it as being my hospitality coordinator for the evening." Zoe felt a flutter of nervousness. She was comfortable cleaning apartments, but serving drinks to wealthy investors was completely outside her experience. "I should probably mention," she said hesitantly, "I don't have any formal serving experience. I mean, I worked at a coffee shop in college, but nothing like what you're describing." Sebastian studied her for a moment. "Zoe, in the 6 months you've been cleaning my apartment, you've been professional, reliable, and discreet. You notice details, you're efficient, and you clearly care about doing good work. Those are exactly the qualities I need for these events." Zoe felt a warm flush of pride at his words. She'd never thought of Sebastian Morrison as someone who paid attention to her work, but apparently he'd been noticing more than she realized. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it. Saturday night, cocktail party." "Excellent. I'll have my assistant send you the details, timing, dress code, that sort of thing. And Zoe?" "Yes?" "Wear something black and professional. These people expect a certain level of presentation." After Sebastian left for his office, Zoe finished her regular cleaning routine in a daze. She couldn't believe how the morning had gone, from disaster to opportunity in less than an hour. That evening, she called her best friend Maya to tell her about the strange turn of events. "Wait, let me get this straight," Maya said. "You broke his expensive vase, and instead of making you pay for it, he's giving you a better-paying part-time job." "I know it sounds weird, but that's exactly what happened. Zoe, honey, either Sebastian Morrison is the nicest billionaire in the world, or he has ulterior motives." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe he's interested in you." Zoe nearly choked on her tea. "Maya, that's ridiculous. Sebastian Morrison could date supermodels and actresses. Why would he be interested in his housekeeper? Maybe because you're smart, funny, and gorgeous? Maybe because you're the only woman in his life who treats him like a normal person instead of a walking bank account?" Zoe shook her head. "You're being ridiculous. This is a business arrangement, nothing more." "If you say so. But promise me you'll pay attention at this party. I want to know if he looks at you differently when you're not wearing cleaning clothes." Saturday evening arrived faster than Zoe had expected. She stood in front of her closet trying to figure out what black and professional meant for a cocktail party at a billionaire's penthouse. She finally settled on a simple black dress she'd worn to her college graduation. Elegant enough to look appropriate, but not so fancy that she'd feel like she was playing dress-up. She pulled her auburn hair back in a neat bun and applied more makeup than usual. When Zoe arrived at Sebastian's building, the doorman directed her to a service elevator. "Mr. Morrison's expecting you, Miss Parker. He said to have you come up through the kitchen entrance." The penthouse was transformed. What had been Sebastian's quiet, minimalist living space was now a sophisticated party venue. Soft lighting, strategic flower arrangements, and a jazz quartet in the corner created an atmosphere of elegant luxury. "Zoe!" Sebastian appeared beside her, and she did a double take. She was used to seeing him in business suits, but tonight he wore a perfectly fitted tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped off a movie poster. "Mr. Morrison, the place looks incredible." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." Zoe felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. "So what do you need me to do?" Sebastian handed her a small earpiece. "My assistant will coordinate through this. Mostly you'll be circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, making sure guests are taken care of. If anyone needs anything specific, just radio for help." For the next 3 hours, Zoe discovered she was actually good at hospitality. She had a natural ability to anticipate what guests needed, remember drink preferences, and make polite conversation without being intrusive. What she didn't notice was that Sebastian was watching her work, and that several guests were pulling out their phones to discreetly record interactions with the charming, quick-witted server who seemed to have a perfect comeback for every situation. When an older businessman made a condescending comment about the help, Zoe's response was swift and professional. "Well, sir, I may be the help, but at least I know not to double-dip in the artichoke spread." The man's wife laughed so hard she nearly spilled her martini. "Oh, my goodness, I love her." "Sebastian, where did you find this one?" Sebastian, who had witnessed the exchange from across the room, felt something unexpected. Pride. Not just in Zoe's professionalism, but in her confidence, her wit, her ability to hold her own in a room full of people who thought their money made them superior. As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, Sebastian found Zoe cleaning up glasses in the kitchen. "You were amazing tonight," he said. Zoe looked up, surprised by the genuine warmth in his voice. "Really?" "I felt like I was making it up as I went along. That's what made it perfect. You were natural, authentic. My guests loved you." "Well, that's good. 9 more events and we're even, right?" Sebastian's smile was mysterious. "Right, 9 more events." As Zoe gathered her things to leave, she had no idea the videos of her sassy interactions were already circulating on social media, or that by morning she'd be known to thousands of people as the sassy maid from Sebastian Morrison's party. She also had no idea that Sebastian Morrison was beginning to see her as much more than just his housekeeper. Zoe woke up Sunday morning to her phone buzzing incessantly. Bleary-eyed, she reached for it and saw dozens of notifications, missed calls, text messages, social media alerts. "What the hell?" she muttered, scrolling through the chaos. The first text was from Maya. "Girl, check Instagram now. You're famous." Confused, Zoe opened Instagram and nearly dropped her phone. Someone had posted a video of her interaction with the condescending businessman from Sebastian's party, and it had over 50,000 views. The caption read, "This queen working at Sebastian Morrison's party just destroyed a rude rich guy, and I am living for it. Sassy Maid. Serve tea. Legend." The comments were incredible. "Who is she? I need her energy in my life." The way she shut him down with style. "Sebastian Morrison better give this queen a raise. I would die for the sassy maid. Protect her at all costs." Zoe scrolled further and found more videos from the party. Her making witty comments while serving drinks, her gracefully handling a spilled martini, her perfectly timed eye roll when someone made an inappropriate joke. Her phone rang. Maya. "Zoe, have you seen it? You're literally trending on TikTok." "On what?" "TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. You're everywhere. Someone started calling you Sebastian Morrison's sassy maid, and it's caught on. There are compilation videos, fan accounts, memes." Zoe sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "Maya, this is bad. Really bad. Sebastian's going to fire me for embarrassing him at his party." "Are you kidding? This is the best publicity Morrison Luxury has gotten in years. Look at the comments. People are Googling Sebastian Morrison just to learn more about the guy who employs their new internet crush." Zoe spent the next hour scrolling through social media in growing horror and amazement. She'd somehow become an overnight sensation, with thousands of people praising her wit, her style, and her ability to handle wealthy jerks with grace and humor. The hashtag #SassyMaid was trending, and people were sharing their own stories about dealing with difficult customers or employers. She'd inadvertently started a movement about service workers standing up for themselves with dignity and humor. But what worried Zoe most were the comments speculating about her relationship with Sebastian. The way he looks at her in the background of that one video. Sebastian Morrison is definitely smitten with his maid. Plot twist. They're secretly dating, and this is all a publicity stunt. Monday morning, Zoe arrived at Sebastian's penthouse with her stomach in knots. She had no idea how he'd react to becoming the subject of internet gossip or to having his private party broadcast to social media. She let herself in with her key and found Sebastian in his office, laptop open, looking perfectly composed in a navy suit. "Good morning, Zoe," he said without looking up. "Mr. Morrison," she said carefully, "I need to talk to you about what happened this weekend." You mean your newfound internet fame? Zoe's heart sank. You've seen the videos. Sebastian finally looked up, and to her surprise, he was smiling. I've seen the videos. I've also seen the analytics from my company's social media accounts. He turned his laptop toward her. The screen showed Morrison Luxury's Instagram account, which had gained over 100,000 followers since Saturday night. Our website traffic is up 300%. Sales inquiries have doubled. My marketing team is calling it the best organic publicity campaign we've ever had. Zoe stared at the numbers, confused. You're not angry? Angry? Zoe, you've done more for my brand in one weekend than my PR firm has done in 6 months. You made Morrison Luxury seem approachable, authentic, human. But the comments, the speculation about us. Sebastian's expression grew more serious. Yes, I've seen those too. Are you uncomfortable with the attention? Zoe considered the question. The fame was overwhelming, but the support from strangers had been surprisingly uplifting. I don't know. It's a lot to process. Well, I have a proposition that might help us both navigate this situation. Another proposition? Sebastian stood up and walked around his desk, leaning against it casually. The internet has decided you're Sebastian Morrison's sassy maid. My marketing team thinks we should lean into it. What do you mean? Instead of fighting the narrative, we embrace it. You become the official face of Morrison Luxury's hospitality events. We create content around the concept, behind-the-scenes videos, social media posts about luxury service with personality. Zoe's eyes widened. You want to make me into a social media character? I want to make you into yourself, but with a platform. You'd still work my events, but now it would be official. Better pay, creative control over how you're presented, a percentage of any revenue generated from the content. Sebastian, Mr. Morrison, I don't know anything about social media marketing or being a public figure. But you know how to be authentic, how to connect with people, how to stand up for yourself with style. That's exactly what people are responding to. Zoe walked to the window, looking out at the city below. This morning she'd been a housekeeper, worried about losing her job. Now Sebastian was offering to make her the face of his luxury brand. What about my regular cleaning work? You'd transition away from that gradually. This would become your primary job with Morrison Luxury. Events, content creation, being our authenticity ambassador. And the remaining 8 events I owe you for the vase? Sebastian's smile was warm. Consider the debt forgiven. This is a legitimate job offer based on your skills and the value you bring to the company. Zoe turned back to face him. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why are you doing this? Really? Sebastian was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes thoughtful. Because Saturday night, I watched you handle every situation with intelligence, humor, and grace. I watched you treat everyone with respect while not letting anyone disrespect you. That's exactly the kind of person I want representing my brand. He paused. And because I think you deserve a chance to show the world what I've been lucky enough to see for the past 6 months, that you're extraordinary. Zoe felt her heart skip at his words. There was something in Sebastian's tone, something in the way he was looking at her, that made her wonder if Maya might have been right about his feelings. Okay, she said, let's do it, but I have conditions. Name them. First, I want creative input on any content that features me. Second, I want a clear contract that protects both of us if this doesn't work out. And third, Zoe grinned. I want to keep being sassy. That's apparently what people like about me, so let's not tone it down for corporate comfort. Sebastian's answering smile was brilliant. Zoe Parker, I wouldn't dream of asking you to be anything other than exactly who you are. As they shook hands on their new partnership, Both of them felt like they were stepping into something that could change their lives, professionally and personally. Neither of them realized that their handshake was being photographed by a paparazzi with a telephoto lens from the building across the street, or that by evening the internet would be buzzing with speculation about Sebastian Morrison and his sassy Maid becoming something more than employer and employee. 3 weeks into her new role as Morrison Luxury's authenticity ambassador, Zoe was discovering that being internet famous came with both perks and complications she'd never expected. The perks were obvious: better pay, creative work, and a platform to showcase her personality to hundreds of thousands of followers who genuinely seemed to enjoy her content. Morrison Luxury's social media engagement had skyrocketed, and Zoe's behind-the-scenes videos of luxury event preparation were getting millions of views. The complications were more subtle, but increasingly impossible to ignore. "Zoe, darling, you simply must tell me, are you and Sebastian dating?" The question came from Margaret Whitfield, a socialite attending Morrison Luxury's latest charity gala. It was the 15th time that evening someone had asked Zoe about her relationship with Sebastian, and her patience was wearing thin. "Mrs. Whitfield," Zoe replied with her trademark smile, "I'm here to make sure you have an amazing evening, not to discuss my personal life. Can I get you another glass of champagne?" "Oh, you're clever," Margaret laughed. "But the way that man looks at you, well, let's just say it's quite obvious to those of us who know about these things." Zoe excused herself and headed to the kitchen, where she found Sebastian reviewing the evening's timeline with his event coordinator. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Sebastian looked up, immediately noticing the tension in her expression. "Give us a moment," he told his coordinator. When they were alone, Zoe crossed her arms. "Sebastian, this speculation about us is getting out of hand. I've had a dozen people tonight asking if we're dating. It's affecting my ability to do my job." Sebastian's jaw tightened slightly. "What did you tell them?" "I redirected the conversation like we discussed, but it's becoming a distraction." "I'm sorry, Zoe. I didn't anticipate how persistent people would be." Zoe studied his face, noting the careful neutrality of his expression. Over the past few weeks, she'd become expert at reading Sebastian's moods, and right now he seemed to be working very hard to appear unaffected. "Sebastian, can I ask you a direct question?" "Of course." "Are you interested in me? Romantically, I mean." The question hung between them in the quiet kitchen. Sebastian was silent for so long that Zoe began to wonder if she'd crossed a line. "Would it matter if I was?" he asked finally. "It would matter because I'd want to know if people are picking up on something real, or if they're just creating drama where none exists." Sebastian stepped closer, his gray eyes intense. "Zoe, you're intelligent, talented, funny, and beautiful. Any man would be interested in you." "That's not what I asked." "I know what you asked." Sebastian ran a hand through his hair, disrupting his usually perfect styling. "And the answer is complicated." "Complicated how?" "Complicated because you work for me. Complicated because your career is taking off. And the last thing I want is for people to think your success is based on anything other than your own merit." "Complicated because," Sebastian met her eyes directly, "because I care about you too much to risk complicating your life with my feelings." Zoe felt her heart skip. There it was, the admission she'd been wondering about for weeks. "What if I told you that knowing how you feel wouldn't complicate my life? What if I told you it might actually simplify things?" Sebastian's expression grew hopeful. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe the reason people keep assuming we're together is because we have chemistry. And maybe instead of fighting that, we should figure out what it means." Before Sebastian could respond, The kitchen door swung open and his event coordinator rushed in. "Sebastian, we have a situation. Someone just posted a video on TikTok of you and Zoe talking in here, and they're claiming they caught you two in a secret romantic moment. It's already got 50,000 views." Zoe closed her eyes in frustration. "This is exactly what I was talking about." Sebastian pulled out his phone and found the video. Sure enough, someone had filmed them through the kitchen's window, capturing their intense conversation and Sebastian's obvious emotional investment in whatever they were discussing. The comments were exploding. "I knew it! They're totally together. The way he looks at her, I can't even..." Plot twist. The sassy maid got the billionaire. "They're trying so hard to deny it, but the chemistry is obvious." "We need to address this," Sebastian said grimly. "How?" Zoe asked. "We could issue a statement," the coordinator suggested. "Clarify that your relationship is purely professional." Zoe looked at Sebastian, remembering his admission from just moments earlier. "Is that what you want to do? Issue a denial?" Sebastian held her gaze. "Is that what you want?" Zoe realized they were at a crossroads. They could deny the rumors and continue pretending their connection was purely professional, or they could acknowledge that something real was developing between them. "What if," she said slowly, "we told the truth?" "Which truth?" "That we're exploring what this connection between us means. That we're not ready to label it yet, but we're not going to deny it either." Sebastian's coordinator looked between them with growing understanding. Oh, are you two actually—" "We're figuring it out," Zoe said firmly, "and we're going to do it honestly." Sebastian smiled, the first genuine smile Zoe had seen from him all evening. "I like that approach." "Good," Zoe said, straightening her shoulders, "because I'm tired of pretending I don't feel something for you. And I'm tired of other people speculating about what's obviously between us." Sebastian stepped closer, his voice low. "And what exactly is between us, Zoe?" "Something worth exploring," she said softly. "Something real." The coordinator cleared his throat. "So, should I cancel the denial statement?" Sebastian never took his eyes off Zoe. "Cancel the statement. If people want to speculate about my personal life, let them. I'm done hiding how I feel about the most amazing woman I've ever met." As Sebastian leaned down to kiss her softly, both of them felt like they were finally being honest, with the world, with each other, and with themselves. Neither of them noticed the coordinator discreetly filming the moment on his phone, already imagining how Morrison Luxury's social media engagement was about to explode. The next morning, Zoe woke up to her phone literally vibrating off her nightstand. The coordinator's video of her and Sebastian's first kiss had somehow leaked, and the internet was having a collective meltdown. Sassy Maid was trending worldwide, along with Your Billionaire Love Story and Morrison Romance. The video had been viewed over 2 million times in 8 hours. But instead of panic, Zoe felt oddly calm. For weeks, she and Sebastian had been dancing around their feelings while the world watched and speculated. Now that the truth was out, she felt free. Her phone rang. "Sebastian." "Good morning." His voice was warm with amusement. "Have you seen the chaos we've caused?" "I've seen it. How are you feeling about it?" "Honestly, relieved. I was getting tired of pretending not to be completely smitten with you." Zoe grinned. "Smitten?" "That's a very fancy word, Mr. Morrison." "I'm a very fancy man, Miss Parker. Speaking of which, would you like to have breakfast with me? Publicly, like a couple who's not hiding anything anymore." 2 hours later, Zoe and Sebastian sat at a sidewalk cafe in Soho, completely aware that paparazzi were photographing their every move and seemingly unbothered by the attention. "This is surreal," Zoe said, sipping her coffee. 3 months ago, I was just your housekeeper, and now we're having our first official date while strangers take pictures of us. Do you regret it? Zoe considered the question seriously. Her life had changed dramatically. Her privacy was gone, her career had taken an unexpected turn, and she was dating one of New York's most eligible bachelors. But looking at Sebastian across the small table, seeing the way his eyes lit up when he smiled at her, she knew her answer. No regrets, she said firmly. But I do have questions about how this works. Such as what happens to my job? I can't be both your girlfriend and your employee. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Sebastian nodded. I've been thinking about that. What if you weren't my employee anymore? Zoe's stomach dropped. You're firing me? I'm offering to make you my business partner. Zoe blinked in surprise. What? Sebastian pulled out his phone and showed her a document. I've been working with my lawyers on this. What if we created a subsidiary company, Morrison Media, focused on authentic lifestyle content? You'd own 51%. I'd own 49%. You'd have creative control, your own team, your own budget. Zoe stared at the proposal, overwhelmed. Sebastian, this is a $1 million company you're talking about. The content you've created has generated over $5 million in revenue for Morrison Luxury in the past month. You've earned this. But what about us? What if dating doesn't work out? Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand. Zoe, I can't predict the future, but I can promise you that no matter what happens between us personally, I believe in you professionally. This offer stands regardless of our relationship status. Zoe felt tears building in her eyes. In 3 months, she'd gone from being a housekeeper, worried about paying her student loans, to being offered a chance to run her own media company. There's one more thing, Sebastian said, looking suddenly nervous. What? The internet has decided you're Sebastian Morrison's sassy maid, but I think it's time you became something more accurate. Which is? Sebastian's smile was soft and genuine. How about Zoe Parker, media mogul who happens to be dating Sebastian Morrison? Zoe laughed, feeling like her heart might burst from happiness. I like that better. So, partners in business and in life? Zoe squeezed his hand. Partners in everything. As they kissed again, this time without caring who was watching or filming, both of them felt like they'd found something rare and precious. Love that had grown from mutual respect, shared humor, and the courage to be authentically themselves. The paparazzi photos from that morning would be everywhere by evening, showing Sebastian Morrison and Zoe Parker, looking completely happy and completely in love. The captions would call it a fairy tale romance, a modern Cinderella story, a billionaire who fell for his maid. But Zoe and Sebastian knew the truth was better than any fairy tale. They hadn't fallen in love because of their different social classes, or despite them. They'd fallen in love because they'd seen each other clearly. Sebastian recognizing Zoe's intelligence, wit, and strength, and Zoe seeing past Sebastian's wealth to find a man who valued authenticity and genuine connection above everything else. 3 weeks after going public, Zoe discovered that dating a billionaire came with complications she'd never imagined. The morning started with her coffee shop being swarmed by paparazzi hoping to catch her daily routine, and it only got weirder from there. Miss Parker, is it true you're moving in with Sebastian Morrison? Zoe, how does it feel to go from maid to millionaire? Are you pregnant? When's the wedding? Zoe pushed through the crowd, grateful for the security team Sebastian had insisted on hiring. She'd initially resisted the protection, but after receiving her third marriage proposal from a stranger and her first death threat from someone who thought she was a gold digger, she'd admitted that maybe some precautions were necessary. At Morrison Luxury's headquarters, Zoe found Sebastian in his office looking grim while scrolling through his tablet. "Bad news?" she asked, settling into the chair across from his desk. "Depends on your perspective. We've gotten 3 movie offers, 5 book deal inquiries, and a reality show proposal in the past 24 hours. Zoe groaned. "Please tell me you're not seriously considering any of those."